I used to think betrayal came quietly, slipping in like a draft through an open window, something you barely noticed until the room was already cold. But no, mine came with appetizers and a bottle of Merlot. Ashley, my wife, my then wife, invited me to dinner at a little Italian place we used to love. Said she wanted to talk. That word should have been a red flag. But like an idiot with hope in both hands, I showed up thinking maybe she was ready to fix us. Maybe she remembered the good years. She was already seated when I walked in, but she wasn't alone. There he was, Chase Donovan, the mentor from work. The guy she talked about too much, laughed about too hard, and suddenly started dressing up for. Button-down shirt so tight it looked like it was painted on, and a smile that belonged in a dental commercial. Ashley gestured to the seat across from them like it was all perfectly normal. "Logan," she said sweetly, "you've heard me talk about Chase." He reached out with the kind of smug handshake that says, "I'm sleeping with your wife, and I think you should know." I shook it. Hard. Smiled like I didn't notice the way Ashley's hand was resting just a little too close to his thigh. And then he leaned in, eyes locked on mine, and said with all the fake charm of a discount villain, "Let's make this simple. You've got two options. Leave quietly, or face me like a man." Now, maybe some guys would have stormed out. Maybe some would have made a scene. I didn't. I smiled, a calm, slow one. Then I asked, "You want your teeth whole or in pieces?" And just like that, dinner was over. Let's just say the wine wasn't the only thing that got spilled. I won't get into the chaos. There were broken plates, a few bruised egos, and one Chase Donovan with his protein shake confidence leaking onto the tile floor. I was dragged out, shirt torn, knuckles throbbing, but I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. Ashley had played her final hand. Brought me here not to confess, not to end things cleanly, but to watch me lose. And in her mind, I did. But the funny thing about being underestimated? You get to plot in peace. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't call a friend or drown in whiskey like a sad country song. I got to work. I walked into our house. My house, technically, like I was stepping into a crime scene. Not the kind with chalk outlines and bloodstains, but the quieter kind. The one where the evidence is digital, emotional, and still warm. Ashley wasn't home. Of course not. She was probably icing Chase's face and whispering sweet nothings about how dramatic Logan can be. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway. But something else did too, a different scent. Masculine, like cologne and entitlement. I went straight to our bedroom. She had made the bed. Tightly. Hospital corners. That alone was suspicious. Ashley hadn't made our bed in years. Her idea of tidying up was tossing the throw pillows in the general direction of the headboard. I sat down, exhaled. Then I opened the nightstand drawer. At first, it was the usual junk, old receipts, charger cables, birthday cards she never read. But tucked under a stack of unused notebooks was her tablet. Unlocked. God bless predictable passwords. The screen lit up, and within 5 minutes, I had more truth than I knew what to do with. Mirror selfies. Hotel room backdrops. Messages that read like the script of a poorly written affair movie. "He still thinks we're just going through a rough patch. Poor baby. You're so much more of a man than he ever was. Can't wait until I don't have to sneak around anymore." There were voice notes too. Her giggling like a teenager. Him whispering, "You make me feel like a king." You ever feel your soul just quietly leave the room? I didn't break anything. Didn't scream. I just sat there and saved everything to a folder I'd already started months ago, back when I first noticed the long showers and shorter tempers. When she came home smelling like a fragrance I never bought her. I named the folder Insurance. Not because I needed revenge. Yet, because I needed leverage. The next morning, Ashley strolled in around 10 a.m. like she'd just finished a yoga class. Not a home-wrecking overnight. Hair tied up, latte in hand, wearing one of my t-shirts. She barely looked at me. "Hey," she muttered, scrolling through her phone. "You okay? You looked crazy last night." I slid her tablet across the table. Open. Messages in full view. She froze. Her fingers hovered mid-scroll. Eyes scanning the screen like she was reading a horror novel and realizing she was the monster. Then, the classic line. Every cheater's opening move. "Why were you going through my stuff?" I didn't even blink. "You lied. You mocked me. You brought him into our lives like I was some placeholder." She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. "God, Logan, you're so dramatic. You were boring. I needed someone who made me feel something again." I nodded, calm as glass. And now you're going to feel what it's like to lose everything. She blinked. For the first time since the restaurant, her confidence cracked. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't throw accusations or tantrums. That's what she expected. Ashley thrived on chaos, on spinning everything back around like she was the misunderstood victim in some emotional courtroom drama. But I wasn't playing that game. I was playing chess, and I was 5 moves ahead. Logan, stop looking at me like that, she said, setting her coffee down a little too hard. You act like I murdered someone. I tilted my head. No, just buried someone alive. Me. She rolled her eyes. Classic. Ashley had this talent of making my pain feel like her inconvenience. You always do this, she said. You get all stoic and silent like you're above everything. Maybe if you'd actually fought for me. I cut her off. Calm, clipped. Ashley, this wasn't a fight. It was a test. And you failed with flying colors. She didn't like that. Not because of the words, but because I didn't flinch. That's what shook her. The old Logan, the one who'd stay up late arguing, begging, fixing everything she broke, was gone. I was done being her emotional janitor. Later that day, while she was busy pretending nothing had happened, I met with my lawyer, Jill. She'd been on speed dial for a while now. The moment I started noticing Ashley's late meetings and just whine with the girls' excuses, I started documenting. Jill was impressed. You've got records, screenshots, dates, a timeline. Honestly, Logan, it's rare we get a client who's already played the whole game before calling us. I smiled. Let's just say I've been doing some emotional bookkeeping. Jill laid it out for me. In our state, infidelity wouldn't get me the whole house or make her do a walk of shame out the front door. But it did give me leverage, especially with the prenup she insisted on skipping. We're in love. We don't need that, she'd said. Yeah, about that. I'd been the sole earner for the last 3 years. Her boutique candle business, Luminescence, hadn't exactly taken off. Cute website, lots of lavender, zero income. So legally, she was hanging by a scented wick. That night, I cooked dinner. Yes, dinner. Ashley came in wearing her favorite leggings, the ones she used to wear when we actually touched each other like we meant it. She paused when she saw the table set. Pasta, wine, candles. What's this? She asked, wary. A send-off, I replied. She laughed nervously. What are you talking about? I handed her a manila envelope. Same color as betrayal, funny enough. Inside, printed copies of the messages, screenshots of bank transfers to the hotel, Chase's shirtless selfie that he graciously posted from the hotel mirror, a letter from my lawyer, and a timeline of the last 6 months. Every lie she fed me, dated, logged, categorized. She flipped through it, face draining color by the second. You're bluffing, she said. No, I replied. I'm building. What? A case. I smiled. A legacy. That part confused her. Good. The best part of revenge? When they don't realize it's happening until they're already buried in it. I didn't expect her to read everything right there at the dinner table. Ashley's always been more of a shredder than a reader. But this time, she sat down, slowly, flipping through every page like she was trying to find a typo that would make the whole thing go away. I watched her face. Page 1, the hotel receipt. Jaw tightens. Page 2, text messages between her and Chase, including the one where she said I was too emotionally neutered to notice. Nostrils flared. Page 3, her own selfie, timestamped during the weekend. She said she was visiting her sick aunt. Her lips moved silently, probably cursing her own eyebrows. And then page 4, my personal favorite. A screenshot from Chase's Instagram story. He's shirtless, in bed, flexing with the caption. Sundays are for stolen queens, smiling face with sunglasses, flexed biceps. You can't make this stuff up. She slowly slid the packet back into the envelope and looked up. You went through my stuff. That was her opening line. Not I'm sorry. Not I can explain. Just the same, tired narcissist cry. How dare you catch me? I leaned forward. Ashley, if I find a snake under my porch, I don't blame the flashlight. She laughed. Sharp. Cold. Forced. So what now, Logan? You gonna ruin me? No, I said. You already did that. I'm just here for cleanup. She crossed her arms, posture suddenly stiff. Her crown was slipping. She just didn't know whether to adjust it or throw it at me. You can't just kick me out. I live here too. I shrugged. Sure. But this house. I bought it. Before we were married. In my name. Her lips parted slightly, like the air had been knocked out of her. And that's when it finally hit her. I wasn't just mad. I was prepared. The next morning, I was already 2 steps into damage control. Canceled the joint credit card. Froze the secondary accounts. Replaced every password she used to know with ones that would stump the NSA. Moved my savings to a separate account. One she couldn't touch, even if she channeled Chase's biceps and broke into the bank herself. I even had the utilities company change the Wi-Fi password. Petty? Yes. Satisfying? Also yes. At around 11 a.m., I heard her in the kitchen, on the phone, whispering, "No, I think he's serious. He had everything. Like, everything." Pause. "No, he didn't yell. That's the scary part. He's just done." Another pause. "Well, what do you want me to do?" I didn't think he'd figure it out. "No. Chase, don't come over yet. I need to smooth this out first." I stepped into the doorway. "Tell him not to bother. We're all out of lavender candles and pity." She jumped, nearly dropped her phone. "Jesus, Logan, don't sneak up on me like that. Don't lie to me like that," I replied. She shoved the phone in her back pocket like a teenager caught vaping behind the gym. "Look, I know I messed up, but this whole operation you're running, it's insane. I made a mistake, okay? Mistake. That word. That word people use when they accidentally put whites in with the reds. Not when they cheat for months and gaslight the man who used to leave flowers on the dashboard of their car every Friday, just because it was Friday." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a series of decisions. And you made them with a smile." She blinked fast. "So what? You're just going to throw me out? After everything?" "No. I'm going to give you a choice." She tilted her head, suddenly wary. "You leave now, with whatever dignity you have left, and I let this stay between us. Or, you fight me, and I take this to every corner of your new little world. Chase's job, his family, your boutique circle of wine moms. I'll hang this truth up like Christmas lights." She stared. I let the silence stretch long enough to feel like a chokehold. "You're bluffing." I pulled out my phone, opened the file labeled Ashley's Greatest Hits. Tapped send. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and stared at the incoming email. "You sent it to me?" "Just a preview," I said. "Imagine where else it can go." Her hands were trembling now. That polished composure, the one she'd always worn like designer armor, was cracking at the seams. "I gave you everything," she suddenly shouted. "I gave you my best years, Logan." "No," I said. "You gave me the years you didn't know what else to do with. And now that you figured it out, you gave the rest to Chase." She stood there, breathing hard, mascara already smudging. I walked to the door, opened it, and gestured. "Your car's still in the driveway. I won't stop you, but I will outplay you." She didn't move. "Logan." I didn't reply, not out of coldness, out of clarity, because sometimes silence isn't empty. It's just full of everything she didn't want to hear. 3 days passed. Quiet, calculated, beautiful days. Ashley hadn't left yet. She floated around the house like a ghost in yoga pants, opening cabinets without purpose, scrolling through her phone like there was an undo button hiding between Instagram and the weather app. She was waiting, hoping I'd soften. She didn't know I was past the thaw. By day 4, her leash dog finally barked. I came home from work, my real job, the one that pays for the roof she was currently trespassing under, and saw Chase's blacked-out Range Rover parked out front. It sat there like a sneer with tinted windows. He was already inside, of course. Didn't even have the decency to wait for an invitation. There he was, stretched out on my couch, one leg over the other like he belonged in the family portrait. He had that same look on his face, the one he wore at that restaurant. Like life was a video game, and I was just a cut scene he could skip. Ashley stood behind him, arms crossed, fake calm. "Logan," she said, her voice too smooth, too rehearsed. "We need to talk." "We already did," I replied. "You used your words. Then your actions. Now I'm using mine." Chase stood up. He had on a linen shirt open at the top, chest tanned and oiled like he'd come straight from a cologne commercial. He even had sunglasses perched on his head inside, like an actual cartoon. "Look, man," he said, putting his hands up. "Let's not make this messy. We're not enemies." I smiled. Just a little. "Oh, we're not enemies. Enemies are worth effort. You're a footnote." His jaw flexed. That made him flinch, just slightly, but enough. Guys like him aren't built for verbal chess. They rely on shoulders, not syllables. Ashley stepped forward. "Logan, we're trying to be civil." "No, you're trying to control the crash landing." I dropped my bag by the door and pulled out a slim folder. Inside, 2 pages. Simple. Elegant. Page 1. A formal cease and desist address to Chase Donovan for entering marital property uninvited. Page 2. A printed email to Chase's boss, Ms. Kelsey Hinton, director of operations at his firm, attaching a few choice screenshots from the Sundays Are for Stolen Queens saga. His face changed when he saw the header. You wouldn't. Already did, I said. BCC'd myself, just in case it didn't deliver. Ashley turned to him, quick. Wait, what is that? He was sweating now, trying to hide it behind a chuckle. Relax, he said. This guy's bluffing. HR doesn't care about personal stuff. You sure? I said, raising an eyebrow. Because those photos? They were taken in a client's summer home. One of yours, if I'm not mistaken. The villa in Napa? The one you said had perfect lighting for secret getaways. Chase looked like someone had unplugged him from the wall. Ashley blinked. You brought me to a client's house? Chase didn't answer. I did. Yes. And then he posted it. Twice. Tagged the couch. The company has a zero-tolerance policy on inappropriate client use. It's all in their employee handbook. She turned to me, wide-eyed. How do you even know that? Because I downloaded it. 3 weeks ago. There was a beat of silence. Then Chase let out a strained laugh, like he still thought charm could dig him out of a concrete hole. Okay. So what's your angle? You want me to walk? Done. Ashley stays, I go? You win. Oh, I don't want you to walk, I said, stepping forward. I want you to run. He looked confused, so I gave him the rest. Run damage control. Run your resignation letter. Run to whatever friend will still answer your calls once that email spreads. But know this. The only reason I'm not dragging this into court is because watching you sweat in my living room is infinitely more satisfying. Ashley whispered, You're doing all this just to hurt him? No, I replied, turning to her. I'm doing this because you picked a man who thought I wouldn't bite back. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before, which was fair. She hadn't. She'd seen the old version of me, the one who forgave things that deserved fury, who fixed things that were cracked beyond repair. But this version had matches and gasoline. And a new hobby, arson with a smile. Chase left. No words. Just stormed past me, shoulder-checking the air like a guy with no other move. His car peeled out of the driveway. Almost poetic, really. Ashley stayed frozen for a while. Then she spoke. You're not the man I married. I smiled. No, I'm better. That night, she packed. Quietly. No tears. No shouting. But I heard her pause at the doorway. Heard the zipper catch on the fabric. Heard the faint tremble in her breath. I didn't think you had this in you, she said, without turning around. Neither did you. That's why you lost. She stepped out into the night. No goodbye, just footsteps fading down the porch. I stood in the living room, alone for the first time in months, and felt the quiet settle like dust. Not sadness, not relief, just the satisfying silence of a king who never needed to raise his voice to win the war. Ashley was gone. Not in a dramatic, storm out of the house, suitcase-dragging tantrum. No, she slipped out the next morning like a tenant who knew the deposit wasn't coming back. She didn't slam the door, didn't leave a note, just silence, as if she believed vanishing quietly might spare her the weight of consequence. She was wrong. I brewed coffee that morning in a kitchen that finally felt mine again. The fridge was emptier. The house smelled like nothing for the first time in months. No more lavender candles. No more anxiety steeped into the couch cushions. Just peace. But the game wasn't over. Because when someone lies to you for that long, you stop trusting the silence. That's when I remembered the file. Not my file. Hers. Months ago, back when things were already weird but I hadn't quite faced the truth, Ashley had a habit of leaving her laptop open. Not unlocked, but resting, lid half closed, screen still faintly glowing. She trusted I wouldn't snoop. To be fair, I didn't. Not at first. But one night, after she came home late with wine breath and a yoga mat, a combo that never existed before, curiosity won. I lifted the screen, and there it was, a folder on her desktop titled Event Planning, Confidential. She'd clicked out of it so fast the day before, you'd think it contained nuclear launch codes. I'd copied it to a flash drive. A quiet insurance policy. One I hadn't even looked at. Until now. The folder had 87 files. Not emails. Not selfies. But PDFs, spreadsheets, Word docs, documents. And not the kind used for party planning. The first one that caught my eye was a file called Schedule Phase 2. Inside, a color-coded timeline spanning 8 months. It was detailed like a military campaign. Dates marked L, away, and C, green light. I scanned further. There was even a note next to one weekend. Book hotel under Amanda's name. Logan thinks I'm in Chicago. Another entry. Legal research, property division, and no-fault divorce. Confirm with Katie. My hands didn't shake. I just sat back, took a slow sip of coffee, and stared at the screen like it was confessing. Ashley hadn't stumbled into an affair. She planned it, scheduled it, strategized around it. This wasn't a mistake. It was a campaign. But that wasn't the real twist. No, that came when I opened a file labeled Accounts, Options. Inside was a spreadsheet of bank accounts. Not ours. Not mine. Chase's. She had access to his email, his passwords, his personal accounts. The document even listed estimated balances, upcoming paydays, and investments. The last column read, "If he gets stupid, screenshots plus prenup copy scanned." That's when the whole thing tilted. Ashley wasn't just cheating on me. She was playing him too. Later that day, I made a call. Not to a lawyer, not to a friend, to Chase's firm. "Yes, hi. I'd like to speak with someone in ethics compliance." 10 minutes later, I had an email address and a direct contact. Compliance officer at WendellMorganPartners.com. I wrote the message carefully, attached the spreadsheet, redacted my own details, didn't need my fingerprints on the glass. But I made sure the metadata was intact. Let the timestamps speak. Let the planning do the talking. I closed it with a simple note. If this lands in the wrong hands, Chase Donovan could lose more than just his job. Thought you should know what he's been sharing with her. Click. Sent. That night, I sat on the couch, pulled up my phone, opened a playlist. Something calm. Jazz, maybe. Or that ambient coffee shop stuff that always made Ashley roll her eyes. Then I got a text. Unknown number. "What did you send to my firm?" I stared at it for a moment. Smiled. The truth. 3 bubbles appeared. Then disappeared. A second later, another message. "You're messing with my career." That's defamation. No. That's documentation. You should ask Ashley why she was logging into your email on Wednesday nights. Silence. Then, I should have known. You're not a husband. You're a snake. And you're a man who let a woman use him like a battery pack. Don't come back to my house. That was the last I heard from him. 3 days later, I got a call. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then listened. It was Ashley. Her voice was soft. Not angry. Not apologetic. Just defeated. "Logan, I know you probably hate me. I wouldn't blame you. But Chase, he's blaming me for everything. He lost his job. Said I ruined him. And now he's threatening to sue me. You don't have to care, but I just needed to talk to someone who understands how all of this started." She paused. "You were always the smart one. I just didn't see it until now. Call me, if you can." Click. I didn't call. But I sat there for a while, thinking about the irony. She built this whole scheme. Every step. Every lie. Every late night. But in the end, she wasn't a villain. Not really. She was a cautionary tale. Because while she played people against each other, I played the truth. And truth doesn't cheat. It waits. Ashley tried to claw her way back into my life the way she used to slip into a room, quietly, pretending nothing happened, hoping the silence would do the heavy lifting. She showed up on a Sunday. The same day she used to make pancakes in my t-shirt and call it our lazy day. This time, she wore sunglasses, tight jeans, and a fake sense of dignity. I opened the door. No words. Just stared. "Logan, can we talk?" I leaned on the doorframe. "We did that already. Remember? You talked. I listened. Then you packed. I'm not here to fight." "That's a shame." I brought popcorn. She tried to smirk. Failed. "I know what I did. And I'm not asking for forgiveness. Chase turned out to be worse than I thought. He's trying to sue me, Logan. He says I set him up. He says I was manipulating him." I let that sit there for a beat. And I didn't plan to fall into that. I got caught up. But I'm out now. You were right. About everything. I nodded. Except for one thing. I thought I wasn't enough. Turns out, I was too much. You just couldn't carry it. "So what now?" she asked. "You just let me drown?" "No," I said, stepping aside and pointing to a box by the stairs. "I packed up the rest of your stuff. It's been waiting by the door longer than you've been gone." She blinked. "That's it." "No. There's one more thing." I handed her a sealed envelope. No label. Just a weight. "What is it?" A reminder, I said, of how bad you were at keeping secrets. 2 days after Ashley's visit, I drove across town to a retirement home. Quiet, clean, the kind of place where time slows down on purpose. Inside sat someone Ashley never knew existed. Grace. She was my goddaughter. Not by blood, not by legal bind, but by choice. Grace was the daughter of my best friend, James, God rest his soul, who passed from cancer 5 years ago. Before he died, he asked me to do one thing. If anything ever happens to me, watch over her. Don't let her fall through the cracks. Ashley never liked Grace. Thought she was too intense. Thought I gave her too much time, too much money, too much space. She didn't know Grace was the reason I stayed sane the last few years. Grace, now 23, studying law, smarter than both of us. She helped me build the paper trail, helped me log timestamps, advised me on how to gather information legally, how to structure the evidence folder for maximum legal weight. Ashley thought I was just brooding. In reality, I was building a castle. And Grace? She was my architect. She tried to come back, I told Grace that day. Let me guess, she said, sipping her black coffee. Chase turned on her? Like a dog that realized the treat jar is empty. She smiled. You ready to end it? Oh, I ended it. Now I'm just adding the period. Grace leaned in. You want to press the button? I shook my head. Not yet. Let's wait for her to show her hand. Ashley didn't take the box. She left it on my porch like it had insulted her, as if dignity came with carry handles. 3 days later, she sent a message. A short one. Just, you're really going to leave it like this? No reply. But she followed up. You'll regret this. I was your wife. Oh, there it was. Entitlement wearing perfume. Still no reply. Then came the real kicker. I'm going to the press. The spreadsheet, the files, everything. You won't look so clean when they hear your side. And that's when I knew. She was panicking. So I sent her a message. Already handled. But thanks for the warning. You see, Grace and I had already made our final move weeks ago. We didn't release the files to the public. We released a different version. A controlled version. Just enough to make Ashley look like the instigator and Chase like the arrogant fool who followed. The public loved it. LinkedIn blew up with think pieces. TikTok made edits. Sundays are for stolen queens became a meme. Chase deleted all social media. Ashley got dropped from 2 influencer collabs. And as for me, I didn't say a word. Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge that it's been 6 months. The house is mine again. The air, lighter. The kitchen, cleaner. My bed, empty, but finally honest. I don't date yet. Not because I can't, but because peace is intoxicating. Ashley, last I heard, she moved in with her sister. Word is, she's trying to rebrand. Something about spiritual healing and aligning your inner compass. I don't judge. If she can lie to herself better than she lied to me, maybe that's progress. Chase, gone. Disappeared from his job, his firm, probably his six-pack, too. The internet chewed him up and spat him out. A punch I never had to throw. Me? I got promoted. Not out of sympathy, just because, freed from her weight, I was lighter, sharper, faster. Turns out, emotional parasites are terrible for productivity. And Grace? She passed the bar. Top of her class. You ever think you'd come out of it like this? She asked me once. No, I said. But I stopped thinking and started acting. That's when everything changed. So now, when people ask me what happened, I say this. I was married once. She cheated. I didn't yell. I built. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't fire. It's foundation. And I'm living in mine.